country, Jamaica, to discuss their affairs. Lord, as we sit here today with this very important mission, we ask that you guide our discussions, our deliberations, and allow us to arrive at conclusions that are to the benefit of the people of the country of Jamaica. These and other blessings we thank you for in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Senator Ferguson. Colleagues, please note that our committee clerk, Mr. Nash, will be serving us in this committee, assisting and supporting. Apologies for absence. I believe the only apology I have for absence is Senator Duncan. Is that correct? Yes. I believe Senator Anderson is shortly going to be with us. And those are the notes that I have. So thank you to those who have arrived on time. All right, we are here today to deliberate on the National Housing Trust orders that have been made. I'm going to say a few brief remarks, and then I'm going to ask the team from the NHT to introduce themselves and to just take us in the direction in which they would wish us to go. Colleagues, the orders that we have are in relation to housing benefits, and they are derived from Section 20 of the National Housing Trust Act, and that section basically speaks to the fact of the housing benefits, and I can read Section 20. Subject to the provisions of this Act, a contributor shall, subject to such contribution or other conditions as may from time to time be prescribed, be eligible for a housing benefit by way of a loan to assist him in the building, purchase, improvement, repair, or maintenance of a house to be used as a residence or for other such purposes or under such other circumstances connected with housing as may from time to time be prescribed. Further, at subsection 2, section 20, the minister may from time to time by order prescribe the schemes which may be operated for the granting of benefits under this section, as well as the terms and conditions under which such benefits may be granted, and any order made pursuant to this subsection shall be subject to negative resolution. Ergo, we find ourselves with three benefits orders, and as I understand it, and I am subject to guidance by the team, the normal process is for the housing projects. The normal process of selection of benefits from projects is based on something called the priority index entitlement, yes? And that's based on the number of weekly contributions that a beneficiary makes, and essentially means that you don't get to the maximum or the high numbers unless you've been doing it for a number of years. So older people tend to be automatically preferenced by virtue of that fact. So section 22, under which the Prime Minister, who is the responsible minister, is acting in this order, is intended to allow us to carve out different protocols for assigning those benefits to specified persons. Have I gone wrong yet? Okay. So having said that, we have 3 benefits orders in place. And I must tell you, members of my committee, I love working with this group of ladies from the NHT, because whenever they come to Regulations Committee, they always come succinct, they have their stuff in place, and we get in and we get out very quickly. So I'm going to turn it over to you, and I'm going to ask Dr. Oakley-Williams to just introduce herself and her team. Thank you so much.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Lainey Oakley-Williams. I'm the Senior General Manager from the National Housing Trust, Customer Relations Management Division. With me, we have Ms. Camille Chevans, our General Legal Counsel, and Ms. Shara Luke Cooper, who is the Manager for the Administrative Support Unit. And we also have 2 persons from our parent ministry. I'll just ask them to introduce themselves.
Everyone, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sean Hilton, Development Analyst with the Office of the Prime Minister.
Good afternoon, Janelle Williams, Assistant Attorney General, Office of the Prime Minister.
So, Chairman and members, we have 3 matters that are before us. I want to thank the Chairman for that introduction. We normally have the priority index entitlement as the main queue. And so persons would get 20 points for every year of contribution, and they can also get an additional bonus points awarded. And that one now is skewed towards persons at the lowest income band. So there's 110 points in addition to the 20 points per year that is given to those at the lowest income band, and those at the highest income band get 70. So again, it would be towards helping those persons at the lowest income band to be able to benefit. Now, separate from that, our board would have made some recommendations, and this is the way in which we are trying to have our special benefit order. We would have sent it to our parent ministry at OPM to see how we can help particular groups of persons, or nurses, or teachers, or police. And what would happen is that we would have a special queue for them. And that queue would mean that instead of having to be working for 30 years or 40 years, this special queue would be there. And in that queue now, they would have a better opportunity to access a solution. And before us, we have 3 developments. And just to give you a brief overview of the developments, Masemure, which is a development that was advertised on December 2020, Industry Cove, that was advertised August 2021, and Catherine Estates in May 2022. And just to note that we would have had a situation where during the COVID period, we had not had a lot of face-to-face or even virtual meetings, which is why you'd be seeing some of these things, even though they would have been acted on in 2020, 2021, and 2022. We couldn't have allowed the units to stay there and, become in a state where we would have to do further repairs or to pay security costs. So these 3 developments would have been for several years ago. So the first one, I'm guided by your chairman. I don't know what the order you'd want me to go in.
I don't have a preference. Go
Okay.
ahead and just announce the particular order you're dealing with.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. So the first one we will lead with is the Masemure, and this particular development is in Westmoreland, situated on 51 acres of land at Little London and Grange Hill Main Road. There are 54 units, 24 studio and 31 bedroom units. And in this particular one, we're asking for 1 unit for the JTA, 1 for the Nurses Association of Jamaica, 1 for the Jamaica Civil Service Association, and 1 for the Jamaica Confederation of Trade Unions. In addition to that, we are asking for 2 units each for members of the Jamaica Constabulary Force and the Jamaica Defense Force. And so, in addition to the main queue, these different associations would be able to benefit. I want to turn our attention then to Industry Cove, which is the next one. And similarly, this one is, is located in the parish of Hanover, so it's Green Island, and they include 63 units, 23 detached two-bedroom and 40 two-bedroom townhouses. And for this one, we're asking for the special benefit order to allow for the following: reservations of 2 units each for members of the Jamaica Constabulary Force, the Jamaica Defense Force, the Jamaica Teachers Association, and the Nurses Association of Jamaica. And in addition to that, 2 units each for members of the Jamaica Civil Service Association and the Jamaica Confederation of Trade Unions. And the final one that is before us is in St. Catherine, and this is Catherine Estates, and it is located adjacent to the highway. 50 units for this batch, so we had them in several batches, so you will see us later on coming back for batch 2 and 3 and 4. These are 50 units, 20 studio duplex units, and 30 one-bedroom units. And the special benefit order for this particular one is 1 unit for the Jamaica Constabulary Force, 1 for the Jamaica Defense Force, Jamaica Teachers Association, the Nurses Association of Jamaica, the Jamaica Civil Service Association, and the Jamaica Confederation of Trade Unions, and 2 units for the young adults, and that is contributors between the ages of 25 and 40 years. And just to note that for this one, it is 50 units.
Can I just interrupt your section? You said the definition of young adults is 25 to 40, not 21?
Time, Chairman and members, it was 25 to 40, so we have subsequently changed that. And we have, because we found that a lot of persons who were in the 40 years old bracket were getting the units. And so we had to reduce that. It's now 35 years and younger. So you actually have persons who are 20 years old now who could benefit. So that was amended.
Okay, thank you. Senator Bennett Cooper.
Thank you, Chair. I note that the young adults would be persons who have contributed to the trust for at least 5 years. Are we likely to find many 20-year persons at age of 20 or 21 who have contributed to the trust for a minimum of 5 years?
Remember, we were able to find some, but having looked at it, we did a little bit more analysis and we have amended that. And so the new schemes are under 35 years old, and it doesn't require a 5-year anymore. So you could be 20. The minimum requirement, of course, being 1 year. You have to be a contributor for 1 year at the National Housing Trust.
So that's adjusted?
Yes, that's adjusted
from the 5 years down to 1?
For subsequent...
As a minimum threshold?
Yes, for subsequent development. So for these 3, which are in 2020, 2021, and 2022, the selection process has what is here, which is 25 to 45.
Noted. Thank you.
25 to 40.
Thank you.
Oh, Chair, I don't know. This may be somewhat of education for me.
Yes.
I'm trying to figure out why for each different scheme we have to have different criteria for who would qualify, and why we wouldn't just have a standard across the board that you assign X amount of units to this category of.
Yes. Okay, so Chairman and members, what we do is we look at the number of units. And so if we have a smaller amount, we are less flexible. So when we have 30, 40, 50 units, we are not able to make provisions for some other things, such as the young adults. However, it doesn't mean that they would be left out, because we did the analysis and we found, for example, that for Industry Cove, even though we did not have a special selection for them, 35% of the selectees were in the young adults age.
That's from the normal process, the normal priority process.
That's from the normal process.
Right.
And for Industry Cove, 84% were able to benefit. So when we have a small amount of units, and you'll recognize that there are persons who are out there saying, I've been contributing longer, you know what I'm saying? And so it's a balancing act. We look at the number of solutions, and if we have a small amount, we have less leeway to have these special selections. With the larger schemes now, if we have 1,000 units, you'll find that the numbers will change. In terms of the framework, these persons are basically set. So you'll find that for all future orders, Chairman, you will see that it's the same groups coming forward. Now, we do have persons, yes, we do. So we would have, this is basically, this is basically what we could get accustomed to, the JTA, the NAJ, you know. However, I must say that there are groups petitioning us. So you have groups who are always making representation to our board through the Prime Minister to see how we can have special selections for them as well. And, you know, so far we have not deviated from these that are there, but there are always persons who want to meet with us to see how they can be part of this special select group. And you can understand if we were to do it for another 10 groups, how that would create additional degrees.
I wonder though, because for instance, we have a special carve-out for the Jamaica Teachers Association. And as I understand it, not every member of the teaching profession is a member of the Jamaica Teachers Association.
Yes.
How do we reconcile something like that? Because in order to be eligible for one of these benefits, it may mean that I have to join an organization that maybe I don't want to join.
So one of the things we say then is that that is where the main queue comes in. The main queue, the priority index entitlement, because if we were to look at the analysis, you'll find that we have quite a few police and teachers and nurses who benefit under the normal main queue. This is really just to make sure that the needs of these particular associations, which are quite large, are addressed. And some of them are things that they would have negotiated for. I must also say that
when you say things they may have negotiated for,
so they would have made in their unions agreement, they would have had different agreements with the government of Jamaica that their particular persons would have a special selection in our schemes. So they would have negotiated that. And
are any of these, are the ones that are outlined here in the schedules to these orders, do those fall under that kind of negotiated scheme? The JTA, Nurses Association, JDF, JCF,
yes.
JCSA, and the JCTU?
For the most part, yes, I would say yes for the most part. And just one other thing I wanted to say with the teachers too. If you are not part of the JTA, there are other ways in which you could benefit. So, for example, the Jamaica Confederation of Trade Unions, the Jamaica Civil Service Association, and also the main queue. Those are different ways in which, even though you're a teacher, you could benefit from being selected.
Meaning you come in under another organization,
That's
or
correct.
you come in under the main queue on your own.
That's correct. That's
but
correct.
what you're saying then is that I can't come in for a special benefit, under a special benefit order,
Unless
without
you're
being a part of an
the
organization.
association. That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
Okay. I'm sorry, Senator Tomlinson.
2 questions. So the order is ring fencing a certain number of allocation to different categories. Within a particular category, what determines who is chosen? So let's say we look at the JTA, when we look at the allocation to JTA, how do you determine who is selected in the JTA?
Is that we would write to the association and indicate to them that we have one unit, and we would ask them for more than one person. So if they present, for example, a list of 5, 10, we would then use the priority index entitlement system to score them, and then it would also now be allocated based on the number of points. with the person who has been contributing highest getting the units.
Okay.
So we never ask for one person. We ask for more than one person, and that will allow us to use the priority index entitlement to score those persons.
Okay, so the first round of selection is actually being done by the organization itself.
Absolutely.
And then you would utilize the parity
Yes.
index entitlement. The second question is a follow-up to what the chairman asked, which I think was a fair question. So if a teacher is not a part of the JTA, that teacher would not qualify under that organization. But what you listed other than the main queue as another avenue of qualification is another union organization. So I'm thinking, what if an individual doesn't want to be a part of any union? And as we know, the general pool would be far more competitive for them. So what sort of arrangement is made for them? And why the need for an organization? Why not, say, teachers' pool, doctors, sectors then? Why it has to come through the union group? Just curious.
All right, so administratively, it's a lot more efficient to have one umbrella organization that will be in communication with the National Housing Trust. As I said before, you can always apply under the main queue. But in terms of you being a teacher, the Jamaica Teachers Association is the first, if you're going to have this special allocation. If you're not interested in being part of an association, then we welcome you to apply under the normal queue. But can you imagine us writing 200 schools to ask them for persons? It could become a little bit more of an administrative nightmare. But with technology, who knows? Because we're actually upgrading our system, Senator, where we'll be looking at to see how we can improve as well.
Thank you very much. Senator Ferguson.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, just a question, I suppose a clarification of a part of your opening statement. Based on the fact that these matters would have come to the board in 2019, 20, and 23 respectively, presumably the developments themselves have been completed or are near complete, and the units have been allocated. Yes?
So you are correct. We had to make a decision. We had to use the board approval and, of course, our OPM, that kind of partnership. We would not have wanted to have the units there for 5, 6 years. They would have been vandalized. You'd have had...
Yeah. I understand the practical
and the security
reality.
cost.
So my secondary question, Chair, is what has the allocation experience been relative to what was contemplated in terms of the special orders? Was there effectively an achievement like for like in terms of what was contemplated?
Senator, so what would have happened is that we would have written to the various organizations and they would have given us the names and we would have allocated those for this special benefit order using this board approval. Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you. Do I have any more comments or questions from my colleagues? No?
Chair, I think we all just look forward to more housing being built.
Very well.
With your legal expertise, and the legislation makes provision just to ensure that we're following the...
Yes, I think you may have come after I read it, Senator Thomason. I did read this section of the Act, the NHT Act, Section 20, subsections 1 and 2, that speak to empowering the minister to make these orders. And of course, these orders are subject to negative resolution. So once we are, is it fair to say we are approving them in the committee, but the Senate now, they will lay, and without objection, they will automatically come into effect, yes? Very well, thank you. All right, so with that said, short shrift, I love these short meetings that get work done quickly. Mr. Nash, do I ask my committee to approve?
We're asking if there are any objections, but before you do, just want to come from the industry code.
Yes, did we look at Industry Cove? We looked at Masemure, we looked at Industry Cove and Catherine Estates. Yes, yes, we did. So, are there any objections from my members to any of these orders? And I'll read them. The National Housing Trust Housing Benefits Special Selection Masemure Flats Housing Development Order 2025. No objections. Any objections to the National Housing Trust Housing Benefits Special Selection Industry Cove Manor Housing Development Order 2025? I have one slight objection. This really should have been 2026, no? Tiffany?
Chairman, at the time that they were laid, we would have to look at when they were laid, Chairman.
At the time they were laid, they were 2025,
That's
but
correct.
we are, it's not when you're laid, it's when you approve them.
We're not-
Give me a moment, please, colleagues.
Chairman,
Let us have our legislative council just guide us. I know with an act we would have changed the timing. I'm assuming we would do so too for the order.
Our microphone.
Sorry.
Thank
Go
you,
ahead.
Chair. Good day, members. It wouldn't be an issue of contention because we can go ahead and do the amendments based on Section 57 of the Interpretation Act. It would be considered as, for example, a slight amendment in terms of the form, so it wouldn't invalidate the legislation. So we can actually go and make the amendment in terms of the date. Nothing is wrong with that.
Right. Right. Okay. Very well. Thank you. So, and it would be noted and on record that the committee had indicated that that needed to be done. Very well. So for National Housing Trust, Housing Benefits Special Selection, Industry Cove Manor Housing Development Order 2025, are there any objections? And that's a no from the committee. Any objections to the National Housing Trust Housing Benefits Special Selection Catherine Estates Housing Development Batch 1, Order 2025, which will become 2026? That's a unanimous no from the committee. And that therefore means, Mr. Nash, we have approved these orders, or do I need to put it now for approval?
You already went through and indicated that there are no objections.
There are no
But
objections.
just to clarify, you did indicate that there was an objection.
Okay.
In regards to
All right, so the committee has approved the National Housing Trust Housing Benefits Special Selection Orders in respect of Masemure Flats Housing Development, Industry Cove Housing Development, and Catherine Estates Housing Development Batch 1 without objections and with the 2025 to be amended to 2026. Right? And with that, our work is done. I don't, pardon me? No, and I'll explain after. With that, colleagues, I think we are complete with this work for the day. Mrs. Oakley-Williams and her team, I suspect we will see her back soon enough on another matter. All right, can I get a motion for adjournment? We do not have a date for the next meeting until there are regulations before the Senate that are being referred to us. Thank you. That was Senator Anderson and Senator Bennett Cooper seconding. Thank you, colleagues.